With Shadow of the Erdtree just a couple of weeks away, I've decided to make a few videos showing you some of the best builds to create in order to get ready for the DLC. Now for this one, I'm going to have about 5, and if you guys want more different kinds of builds, I'll be sure to make some in the future. But anyway, we have a bunch more videos coming out in time for the DLC, so let's start off now with a few builds. Let's start things off with the Flame Samurai. This build is pretty damn cool. It's going to include the Nagakiba, the very long samurai sword. Now this thing is pretty cool. What's going to consist of is obviously Nagakiba with the double slash Ash of War. We're going to have Seppuku on a short sword for that extra buff. We're also going to be having the Giant Seal because we are going to be using some flame spells. Next up, we're going to go with the samurai build right here. The armor doesn't really matter what armor you use, but I'm going to go ahead and put on the samurai armor. Next up, we're going to be using the Shard of Alexander, the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, and also the Ritual Sword Talisman. Now the Ritual Sword Talisman, you can switch it up if you wish to. Maybe you can go with the Millicent's Prosthesis, which is a very good choice, or you can go ahead and use the Fire Scorpion Charm, which is another great choice. For the Flask of Wonder and Physic, we're going to have the Thorny Cracked Tear and the Flame Shrouded Cracked Tear. And that's pretty much it for the build itself. And then for the spells, what we're going to be using is the Golden Vow, the Howl of Shabriri, the Blood Flame Blade, and also the Giant Flame Take V, Burno Flame, and Flame of the Fell Gods. Now you can go ahead and put on a few more spells here if you wish to. You can also go ahead and use Flame Grant Me Strength, which is another great choice, and also Catch Flame. I mean, we're doing some pretty good damage against the Millennia right here. And yeah, you can obviously see that this build is actually pretty damn powerful. It does stun lock her pretty well. I'm not going to try to kill her because, yeah, that is doing some serious damage. So what I'm going to do now is kill her, or get killed by her, and move on to the next build. Because, yeah, this thing is pretty damn strong. For the next build we're going to be doing is another Twinblade build, but this isn't like the one I've created in the past that was more blood related. This one is a little different. 2 Gargoyle Twinblades with the Crag Blade Ash of War in the Blood mode, the Finger Seal to use our buffs, the White Mask and the Raptor's Black Feathers for that extra damage while jumping, the Claw Talisman, the Blood Exaltation, the Rotten Sword Insignia, and also the Ritual Sword Talisman, but you can switch this up if you wanted to, like the Sword of Alexander, because this one works when your HP is at maximum. The Blood Boil Aromatic for that extra damage, the Flask of Windless Physic, we're going to have the Thorny Cracked Tear, and the Strength Knot Crystal Tear. For our spells, we're going to be using the Golden Vow and the Howl of Shabriri. That works very well if you do not have the Blood Boil Aromatic. Alright, Millennia, once again, let's see exactly what we do against her. Oh my god, okay, she's pretty much dead. That was absolutely ridiculous. The damage output with this build is, yeah, it's pretty damn high. But be careful, you do take a little bit more damage, I'm pretty sure, with the buffs that we've just used. But anyway, either way, that is some serious damage. Next up is the Magic Samurai. Now, this build is pretty cool. We're also going to be using a sword and magic at the same time. This one is going to be a really fun build to use. For this, we're going to be going ahead and using another katana, the Moon Veil. Next up, we're going to be using the Azur's Glintstone Staff just to use those spells a little bit faster. Also, the Finger Seal. Next up, we're going to have the Spellblade's entire armor set just because it does give you an extra 8% of damage. I think it is around that. Next up, we're going to also be using the Shard of Alexander, the Magic Scorpion Charm, the Rotten Sword Insignia, and also the Ritual Sword Talisman. The Flask of Wonder and Physic is going to include the Thorny Cracked Tear and also the Magic Shrouded Cracked Tear. For our spells, we're going to be using the Golden Vow and also the Terra Magica to increase our damage output when using magic. Alright, and that's pretty much it for this build. Not only are you going to be using magic, but you can also use the main veil as a normal katana and just go ahead and slash away your enemies, or you can go ahead and use some spells as well. An all-round very fun build to use. For this build, we're going to be using another sword and a staff once again, but this one we're going to be focusing on the Moon Greatsword. This build is pretty fun and very powerful. The Dark Moon Greatsword followed up with the Jellyfish Shield, the Azur's Glintstone Staff once again, a Finger Seal. Now this one, we're going to be focused on the Queen's Crescent Crown as well. Now for everything else, I'm just using the Snow Witch Robe just to look more of like a wizard. And obviously the Ritual Sword Talisman, the Godfrey Icon, the Magic Scorpion Charm, and the Shard of Alexander. For the Wandering Physic, we're going to be using the Intelligence Not Crystal Tear and the Magic Shrouding Crystal Tear. For the spells, we're going to be using Golden Vow if you wish to, but mainly we're going to be focusing on is Terra Magica. Now another great option to use is also Renala's Full Moon. You can use before you fight the boss to attack them with this first to give them another damage boost. Anyway, that is the build itself. It's pretty damn good and definitely a fun one to use because again, you're using a sword and some magic as well. For this build, we're going to be doing the Flame Warrior. Now this one is pretty damn cool, especially if you love fire. The Blasphemous Blade at level 10 is going to be your go-to weapon. A seal to use some spells. We're going to be going with the Dragon Communion, but you can use whichever one that you have. The armor doesn't really matter, I'm just using this one because it looks really cool. The Shard of Alexander, the Fire Scorpion Charm, the Old Lord Talisman, and also the Ritual Sword Talisman, but you can switch these if you feel like something else would be a little bit better for you. The Wandering Physic is going to have the Flame Shrouding Crack Tier and also the Stone Barb Crack Tier if you wish to break stances a little bit faster, or you can go ahead and switch that up to whatever you like. And for the spells, we're going to be using Golden Vow, Catch Flame, and also Flame Grant Me Strength. I mean, okay, that is some serious damage. I didn't want to kill her right there, but yeah, there you go. You can pretty much kill her more or less instantly. So that is pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy. Hopefully it brought you something new to try out now and into the DLC. With the new update that we're going to be getting, I highly doubt a lot of the things that we're using now is going to get heavily nerfed to the point where it's going to be completely useless. So a lot of these are going to be still pretty good in Shadow of the Erdtree. Next video, I'll make another top 5 builds that you can go ahead and try out. Do something a little bit different, maybe some more heavier weapons, some more magic, and some more lighter builds. Anyway, I'll see you all very soon.